Changes may be coming to the way you vote for the Charleston County School Board in the future. I sat down exclusively with District 20 Constituent School Board Chairwoman Dowling Chow for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Dowling Chow, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, as everyone knows, you are the chairwoman for the Charleston County Constituent School Board's District 20.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about some developing news and some controversy right now with the Charleston County Legislative Delegation basically trying to change the way people vote for the Charleston County School Board. And I want to go to the Post-Accords editorial, in which the headline reads this: Editorial, no, we do not need a less diverse, more divisive Charleston County School Board. When you look at the Charleston County School Board right now, what do you see as a constituent school board member?
Well, this legislation concerns me very much because certainly I see a school board that struggles a lot to deal with very complicated problems. And for as long as I've been working with our schools, there's been a lot of discussion about the magnet programs and about the issues in D20, but there has been little resolution to make significant changes. So I think that it's been with a lot of thought and a lot of preparation, planning, and a lot of input from the community that they have come to these decisions, and that they've been quite thoughtfully prepared. And they knew that there was going to be a big backlash because people are not accustomed to big changes, and I think it's been very difficult. But I think it's not a perfect board, but it's done a good job. And it concerns me very much to think that these seats would be upended without much communication or feedback from the community. It seems like a major overstep. And the legislation itself, which would change the way that our area is represented and divided into 4 areas, would be, I think, very detrimental for downtown Charleston. So it concerns me a lot.
Concerns you a lot. Well, this has me thinking too, as I was on my way over here, if they were to vote this in, and I understand that Senator Larry Grooms from Bono basically says, hey, this particular legislation needs a lot more work.
It sure does.
What exactly should they work on now?
The legislation? Well, I think that it's been pushed through the House within 1 week. And I mean, it's the first I've heard about this legislation or this idea. So I think that it's just caught a lot of people off guard, and it's certainly not the way to completely revamp our school board. Our school board is laid out the way it is for a reason, and it's very complicated. All of our school districts have unique issues. Okay. Certainly it doesn't make sense to divide up downtown Charleston into 4 areas. We need somebody representing us who actually lives in downtown Charleston. And it's quite possible with the way that these gerrymandered lines are drawn, that we would have nobody living downtown. And we would also have areas that have more voting members outside of downtown Charleston. Mm-hmm. All of these 4 areas would have more representation outside of downtown Charleston. So that's not going to be good for us.
And I know, as I was walking over here, I was just thinking this. So if they were to pass this, legislation to have a single-member district format, how would that change the constituent school board? Would you want more power or less?
Well, certainly we would need to have more representation, because I would think that somebody's that's supposed to be representing the area south of Broad that goes all the way to Allendale. Right. We would need to have actual input as to what is happening at Memminger. Okay. Complicated things are going on, and we want somebody who is on the ground and prioritizes D20 issues. What I think the big problem is, we all know that there's a major discrepancy in terms of opportunities for students in different zip codes. Okay. And we certainly feel like in D20, we do not have nearly the resources that Mount Pleasant has, Mount Pleasant schools. So the legislation that these changes that were passed by the recent changes that were so controversial that were passed by the school board, were some of the first concrete steps to providing more opportunities and more opportunities for downtown residents, and for other students who live in areas that are higher poverty areas. So I think it was a really important step to open those doors.
And you talked earlier about obviously complicated issues at Bemidji right now, and having someone who would be great on the ground and figure out what's going on there. What exactly is going on in Bemidji, and how do you tackle that now as a constituent school board?
Well, it's not exactly what's going on right now, but it's as part of the proposal to change Buse.
Oh yeah.
The kindergarten through third grade through second grade, is going to be moved to Meminger.
Okay.
So that's, the devil's in the detail. There's going to be a lot of changes that are going to have to be worked through. And certainly we want representation, and we want leaders who really understand what those issues are.
Where are the leaders now?
On the school board?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we have one representative, Senator Todd Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
Who is on our school board. And the other issue that concerns me, Quintin, about this new legislation is that it seems to push for every area to have one representative who's just worried about their own area. And I don't think that's quite fair, because part of the shared future, vision, and all of the research that has gone into getting us to this state, the Clemson Diversity Study, have laid out that the major achievement gap in our county, and that's not D20's problem alone. That our schools are providing such unequal opportunities for children from different zip codes is a county-wide problem. That's not something just for downtown to deal with. And the problems of historical racism in our schools, and generational poverty, and not preparing students for the workforce are problems that we all need to work together to change. So it concerns me that Mount Pleasant would, for example, just be voting for Mount Pleasant when Mount Pleasant has really strong, great schools. Where does that leave D20? We have not nearly the kinds of opportunities that we should have for high school. Mount Pleasant has a brand new high school, Beckham. They're going to be offering, German and horticulture and dozens of other things. Our children should be able to explore those options as well. Why is that school is 7 miles away? Why aren't our children allowed to have those same kinds of opportunities just because they live in D20?
Would you consider bringing, those types of things like German, horticulture down to Burke High School?
Well, I think it's a question of partly the numbers.
Okay.
And so, because that's the way school funding works.
Okay.
I mean, we don't even have the numbers in downtown Charleston to create a school like that. But if we have students who are not getting into magnet programs, who are not finding what they want at Burke High School, who cannot afford to go to private school, why can't those students attend a school 7 miles away that has those options available? Downtown Charleston, the peninsula, is the second highest tax base in the county after North Charleston.
Okay.
So, we should be all working together. We should be evening the playing field for all of our students and providing them with all the resources they need to get into whatever kind of college or a job they want after school. It shouldn't be dependent on where they live. Obviously, I think the school board has really trying to make steps to make these opportunities more fair for families.
You talked earlier about the funding as far as, Burke High School. Where's that funding now?
Where's the funding?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they're getting the funding, but it's per student.
Okay.
So you can't offer a German class if there are not enough students to take the German class, right? So whereas Beckham, I believe, is how many students? 1,500.
Right.
So, Burke only has about 300. So, and that's not the only reason. There are many reasons why, our schools are under-resourced. West Ashley has a strong creative arts program. Those kids are set up to go to the School of the Arts. We do not have anything like that in downtown Charleston. The program at Sanders Clyde is nothing like that. It's just not up to par. It's not where it should be. It's not providing those kids with the same kinds of resources in the arts that are going to give them the chances they need to go to one of our best high schools in the country and one of our best high schools in the state.
Okay.
So, it's not, it's D20 needs a school board that is going to consider these issues that we all need to work on. We all need to help make an even playing field for more of our kids.
How do you enhance that program right now at Sanders Clyde?
How do we enhance that program at Sanders Clyde? Well, we need a good school board to work on that as well.
Okay. And let me get back to the Post and Courier article. It reads this: if you like the Charleston County Council, you're going to love Charleston legislature's plan to replace Charleston County School Board. H5034 would require all 9 members of the board to run in new elections this fall. This will allow voters who are unhappy with the board's efforts to provide better educational opportunities for poor kids trying to replace the entire board in November, rather than just replacing half of the board members, as they could try to do under the current law. But it hardly seems fair to voters who thought they were electing board members to 4-year terms in 2018.
I agree. I don't see how you just decide that you don't like the way you don't like the decisions that have been made by this board, so you're just going to start over and put new board members in there who are going to presumably prevent these changes happening in our magnet schools, which I think is the whole point of this legislation. So it doesn't seem at all reasonable to push something like that through the Senate.
And my question is this: what efforts would be ideal as far as providing better education opportunities for people in the district?
For people down in the peninsula?
Sure, that too.
On the peninsula, we definitely need different high school options. Burke High School has a great history. I respect it very much, as do, it's very, very important to many people, yourself included.
Sure.
So, but it's not providing what a lot of students need.
Okay.
So, again, why, if there's a school 7 miles away that is providing those classes, why can't our students downtown be able to attend that school as well? Schools like, we need the same resources that the creative arts programs that are the best creative art programs in other areas. North Charleston has one, and West Ashley.
Sure.
We need that downtown too. Our children are artistic and want to go to the School of the Arts as well. Why should they be less prepared because their school program is not as strong as the other schools? We need all of these resources downtown. We do not want to be bused to programs for an hour or two after school or for part of the day. That's just not fair. We contribute to the system. We have children. Just like these other areas, we feel strongly that our children also deserve to go to great high schools that offer everything, all of these same opportunities, all of these same classes that are going to be offered at Beckham. We want our children to have access to those programs, which seems reasonable. That's the whole point of this. These magnet programs shouldn't just be for families who have everything going for them and have been able to get into these programs in kindergarten, and so their students are have a lot of rigor and some advantages. And it's certainly by restructuring Buse, for example, this way. We have more seats for downtown students, so we're not going to have students who have 2 siblings going to the school and have one who can't get in because they're waiting on the lottery. Meanwhile, those seats are being taken by other students in Mount Pleasant or even Daniel Island. I mean, that just seems wrong. So we do need more seats for downtown residents. And I think this restructuring is going to allow that.
Might be a tough question here, but how do you restructure Burke High School?
Well, that is a tough question. I think that many things have been tried to get more students there. I think that it would make sense to make Burke High School perhaps make it a magnet program. It is at least half of a magnet program right now.
Okay.
So in that way you could have busing from different areas, and you could perhaps have a magnet program with certain focus that students might like and have the alumni involved or not. But it's just a thought in terms of keeping an identity and attracting more students, because that's the issue. We need more students.
How do you attract more students to Burke High School in 2020?
A good question. What do you think they should do?
I gotta stay out of that one.
I don't know. You know, some of the problems at Burke High School are because of the feeder schools.
Okay.
So you can't have a conversation about Burke High School in isolation. You know, it's connected to the lack of preparation that a lot of students have received in their elementary schools and their middle school, and so we need to improve those opportunities. It's ridiculous that we don't have, once again, research-based reading instruction in all of these schools to raise the level of reading.
What are those feeder schools right now that are concerning to you?
Well, certainly Sanders Clyde is one of the poorest performing schools.
Okay.
Mitchell's had a lot of changes recently, but it's also a concern. All of our schools downtown should be performing much better. We have again the second highest tax base in some of the poorest performing schools in the county. So that's just unacceptable. But I don't think that creating a school board where we are isolated with our problems is going to be helpful or acceptable. And I think that dividing up downtown Charleston into these 4 areas where we're underrepresented in all 4 of these little sections is going to be extremely unhelpful to these schools and to the real issues that we have downtown.
What other issues are in downtown Charleston that concern you right now?
Our poorly performing schools performance, it's upset me a lot. I'm an educator and I'm a teacher and a parent, and I want our schools to be terrific, you know, just like all parents do. And they're not right now. They're not providing our kids with enough opportunities. They're not providing our students with enough rigor. An A is not an A downtown. You know, an A at one school is not the same as an A at another school. So we have major problems, and we need a whole county board to listen to these studies. The Clemson Diversity Study, which addressed all of these issues and had input from all kinds of community leaders and members, and I spoke to them. So that it was a very interesting process. We've also have this advanced ed. We finally have, accreditation in Charleston County, and that board came forth and said, you absolutely must make certain changes to our schools, and the particular concern are downtown schools.
Okay.
So it's not in a vacuum that the school board came up with these changes.
Okay.
It was with a lot of thought and a lot of research and best practices out as to how to move a city forward, a city that's been very slow to change with its schools.
You talk about obviously the schools in downtown Charleston. Where are we with Simmons Pinckney right now in your mind?
Simmons Pinckney, again, it has a lot of issues based on the feeder schools.
Okay.
So you can only do so much, and when you have students arriving terribly unprepared, years beneath where they should be in 6th grade, which is the situation at Simmons Pinckney. So they're doing their best. They have extra resources, but it's it's not enough because they have a great many students who are just not ready to be in middle school.
And what are those extra resources right now that you know of?
Well, I know they have extra reading resources and small group pullouts,
Sure.
and certainly they have a very attentive principal and vice principal.
Sure.
And Nathan Nelson is the person to be asking these questions.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
Great. Going forward, what do you want to see in this legislation from the Senate side?
Well, there needs to be discussion about this, fair discussion in our community, so that we can, actually reflect on what kind of fallout, what kind of unforeseen consequences this shuffle might have. It's not something that should just be done in a couple of weeks without when people aren't really paying attention, which is kind of the way it feels right now, that it has been pushed forth by certain legislators who are unhappy with the magnet changes that have been proposed by the Charleston County School Board. And that, to me, just seems like an unfair way to handle it.
And also, the Postal Courier said this, to quote, rather they're focusing on their objections to the school board's mission-critical actions to consolidate schools, that is, shift programs, change who can attend and who can get priority seating at magnet and partial magnet programs, and seek freedom from some states' regulations. What are your objections to the mission-critical actions right now?
I don't have objections to mission critical actions right now. I think that it's been a very difficult process. I think that there's been a lot of thought put into it, and there have been, contrary to what some people say, there's been a lot of community feedback. That there was the community action group that brought together all kinds of residents from all areas, and these recommendations made by the school board reflect the decisions that group made, the recommendations that group made. They follow the recommendations made by the Clemson Diversity Study as well, and by the Advanced Ed. So I think that what was obvious was that many parents were going to object passionately and strongly to these changes. What some people think is happening is that the standards are lowering at the schools, which is not the case. The standards are going to the entry requirements remain the same for abuse, 75% in math and reading. But what it does do is it just provides more opportunity with greater outreach to potential students in other areas who were not did not really have access to the school before.
What schools should be consolidated in your mind right now?
What schools should be consolidating?
Yes, ma'am. And particularly in District 20.
Well, I think that they're trying to work on some of the proposals put forth. Do consolidate some of our to rearrange some of our schools. So I think for the most part we're moving in the right direction, and certainly there is a lot of work to be done, but what would be detrimental is to mix everything up right now, throw out the people who have put a great deal of work and effort into these steps that are important steps for Charleston County. I mean, we're very far behind in lots of areas, and change is difficult, right? So I think that it's natural that people are feeling upset, and they're feeling like they weren't really heard. It's a natural reaction because they see big changes and they suddenly are very shocked that their change is happening. But I think that that the changes are going to be fine. I think that they're probably what we need.
Darling Child, thank you so much for your time again. Welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups, and thank you for this tea while I'm dealing with this cold and everything.
Feel better, thank you.
Yeah, I feel a little, yeah, thank you greatly.